The idea of taking apart a multi-million-dollar hypercar sounds crazy on its own, but try to do it in a small garage without factory support takes things to a completely different level. This story begins with a bold challenge, doing something that even the car's own maker believed was impossible. When a car manufacturer says a job can only be done in a few places in the world, with special tools and highly trained experts, most people would not even try. But that is exactly what makes this project so exciting. A heavily damaged Bugatti, worth millions, became the center of attention after its owner decided not to let it go to waste. Instead of giving up on it, he bought it back after an insurance payout and chose to rebuild it. That decision alone set the stage for a project full of risk, uncertainty, and determination. The mission was clear but extremely difficult. Take apart the car, inspect the damage, and try to bring it back to life. The biggest challenge? The car had to be split into two halves, something that was said to be nearly impossible outside of specialized facilities. This created a strong sense of tension right from the beginning, as the team knew they were stepping into unknown territory. Every move mattered, and every mistake could cost a fortune. Yet, the excitement of proving something wrong pushed them forward, turning what seemed impossible into a real attempt as the work began. The team quickly realized that this would not be a simple repair job. The car had already suffered serious damage, and some of it was not visible at first. While removing the outer parts, they discovered deeper issues, including what looked like a crack in the gearbox. This was a major concern because such damage could mean the entire project might fail. At that moment, the mood shifted from excitement to worry. Fixing body panels is one thing, but repairing or replacing critical mechanical parts is much harder, especially without help from the manufacturer. Still, they continued step by step, carefully removing parts and documenting everything. The process started with removing visible components like panels, glass, and airbags. Each step revealed more about the car's condition and design. Interestingly, some parts were easier to remove than expected, while others were hidden behind layers of complex engineering. This created a mix of progress and frustration. On one hand, they were moving forward. On the other, they were constantly facing new challenges. The discovery of hidden bolts and unexpected connections showed just how advanced the car was. It was not built like a normal vehicle. Every piece had a purpose, and every connection was carefully designed. This made the process both fascinating and difficult, as the team had to figure things out without any official guidance point. One of the most surprising parts of the project was how the car was put together. As more panels were removed, it became clear that the design was not as complicated as expected in some areas. Instead of being permanently fixed, many parts were bolted together in a way that allowed them to be removed. This gave the team hope. It suggested that the car might actually be reparable if they could understand its structure. However, this did not mean the job was easy. There were still many hidden fasteners, clips, and connections that required patience and attention. At times, parts refused to come off, forcing the team to stop and rethink their approach. These moments tested their problem-solving skills and pushed them to look more closely at the design. When they finally managed to remove certain sections, it felt like a small victory. Each success built confidence and motivated them to keep going. The quality of the materials also stood out. Carbon fiber parts, strong and lightweight, were used throughout the car. Seeing these components up close gave a deeper appreciation for the level of engineering involved. It was clear that this was not just a car, but a carefully crafted machine. Understanding how it was built became just as important as fixing it. This shift in perspective helped the team stay focused. Even when the work became slow and difficult as the project moved forward, the goal of separating the car into two halves became more realistic. Initially, it seemed like an impossible task, but with each part removed, the structure of the car became clearer. The team began to identify the points where the front and rear sections were connected. These connection points were held together by strong bolts, some of which were hidden in hard-to-reach places. Finding and removing these bolts required careful inspection and sometimes trial and error. It was not just about removing parts, but understanding how everything fit together. At this stage, the car was lifted to allow better access to the underside. This revealed even more details, including additional fasteners and structural elements. Seeing the car from this angle provided new insights and helped the team plan their next steps. The engine, located at the rear, became more visible as surrounding components were removed. This powerful engine was one of the most impressive parts of the car, and seeing it exposed added to the sense of achievement. Despite the progress, there was still a long way to go. The team had to remain careful and organized, keeping track of every part and connection. Losing even a small component could create problems later. This stage of the project showed that what once seemed impossible was slowly becoming possible through patience and persistence. Disconnecting the various systems of the car was another major challenge. Modern hypercars are not just mechanical machines. They are filled with advanced electronics, hydraulic systems, and complex wiring. Each of these systems had to be carefully disconnected before the car could be split. This required a methodical approach, as rushing could lead to damage or loss of important components. The team worked through each system one by one, started with the battery, and moving on to the drivetrain. The drive shaft had to be marked before removal to ensure it could be reinstalled correctly later. This level of detail showed how precise the work needed to be. Coolant lines, air conditioning pipes, and electrical connections all had to be separated carefully. Fluids were collected instead of being wasted, as their exact specifications were unknown. This added another layer of difficulty, as the team had to treat every drop as valuable. The hydraulic system, which controlled features like suspension, also required attention. Some lines released fluid while others did not, creating uncertainty about their function. Without official information, the team had to rely on observation and logic. This part of the process highlighted the complexity of the car and the importance of careful planning. Every step brought them closer to their goal, but also reminded them of the risks involved. One of the most interesting discoveries during the process was the way the car's wiring was designed. Instead of being spread out in a confusing manner, much of the wiring seemed to connect through organized sections. This made it slightly easier to manage, although it was still a delicate task. The team hoped to find a main connector that would allow them to separate large sections of wiring at once. To do this, they had to access the interior of the car, removing parts like the accelerator pedal and lifting the carpet. This revealed hidden areas that were not normally seen. Finding these connections required patience and careful inspection. Once located, the wiring could be disconnected and fed to the structure of the car. This step was crucial, as it ensured that the front and rear sections could be separated without damaging the electrical system. It also showed that, despite its complexity, the car was designed with some level of serviceability in mind. This was an encouraging sign, as it suggested that the task might not be as impossible as originally thought. However, it also required the team to stay focused and avoid mistakes. A single error in handling the wiring could cause major problems later. This balance between hope and caution defined the stage of the project. As the work continued, the team began to feel more confident in their ability to complete the task. What started as a risky experiment was now turning into a structured process. Each system that was disconnected brought them one step closer to splitting the car. The idea that this could be done in a simple garage, without special tools or factory support, became more believable. At the same time, the team remained aware of the challenges ahead. There were still bolts to find, connections to remove, and unknown problems that could appear at any moment. The project required not just skill, but also determination and creativity. It was not about following instructions, but creating solutions. This made the journey more rewarding, as every success was earned through effort. The car itself became a symbol of this challenge. Once seen as an untouchable machine, it was now being carefully taken apart and understood piece by piece. This transformation was inspiring, showing that limits can sometimes be pushed with the right mindset. The project was no longer just about repairing a car. It was about proving that something considered impossible could be attempted and possibly achieved. In the end, this story is not just about a damaged hypercar or a difficult repair. It is about challenging assumptions and exploring what can be done with determination and careful thinking. The team's journey shows that even the most complex tasks can be broken down into smaller steps. By focusing on one part at a time, they were able to make progress in a situation that seemed overwhelming at first. The project also highlights the importance of curiosity and willingness to learn. Without official guidance, the team had to rely on observation, logic, and experimentation. This approach allowed them to understand the car in a deeper way. It also created a sense of connection with the machine, turning it from a mystery into something they could work with. While the final outcome of the project remains uncertain, the progress made so far is already impressive. It shows that with patience and effort, even the most difficult challenges can be approached. This story serves as a reminder that sometimes the biggest achievements come from simply trying. Even when others say it cannot be done, as the moment of truth approached, the team found themselves closer than ever to achieving what once seemed impossible. Almost every major system had now been disconnected. The wiring, hydraulic lines, coolant pipes, and mechanical connections had all been carefully separated. What remained was a final step: identifying and removing the last few bolts that physically held the front and rear halves of the car together. These bolts were not ordinary. They were made from strong materials like titanium and placed in very specific positions to hold the structure securely. Finding each one required patience and close inspection. Some were easy to spot, while others were hidden deep within the car's frame. Missing even a single bolt could prevent the separation or cause damage if force was applied too soon. This made the process slow, but necessary. At this stage, the team had to rely fully on their understanding of the car's design. Without official instructions, they had to trust their own judgment. Every movement was done carefully, double-checking each step before moving forward. The tension in this phase was high, as everything depended on getting this part right. If successful, it would prove that the entire effort had been worth it. If not, it could mean going back and rechecking everything again. The weight of the moment was clear, but so was a determination to see it through. With the final bolts located and removed, the team prepared for the separation itself. This was not just a mechanical step, but a symbolic one. It represented the breaking of a boundary that many believed could not be crossed outside of specialized facilities. Before attempting to pull the two halves apart, they made sure everything was fully disconnected. Any missed wire or pipe could cause serious damage. Once they were confident, the process began slowly. The car was supported carefully to avoid any sudden movement. As slight pressure was applied, the team watched closely for any signs of resistance. At first, nothing happened, which created a moment of doubt. Had they missed something? Was there still a hidden connection? These thoughts ran through their minds as they paused to check again. After confirming that everything had been addressed, they tried once more. This time, there was movement. It was small, but enough to show that the two halves were beginning to separate. That moment brought a sense of relief and excitement. It was proof that their work was correct. Slowly and carefully, the gap between the front and rear sections began to grow. Seeing the car split into two parts was both strange and fascinating. It revealed the internal structure in a way that is rarely seen. Even by professionals, as the two halves were fully separated, the scale of what had been achieved became clear. What was once a complete hypercar now stood divided, exposing its inner engineering. This allowed the team to finally inspect the damaged areas more closely, especially the gearbox that had caused so much concern earlier. With better access, they could now understand the extent of the damage and begin thinking about possible solutions. This stage marked a shift from disassembly to evaluation. Instead of just taking things apart, the focus now turned to deciding what could be repaired and what needed replacement. The gearbox, being a critical component, required careful attention. Any mistake here could affect the entire performance of the car. At the same time, the team had to consider the cost and availability of parts. Without support from the manufacturer, sourcing components would not be easy. This added another layer of difficulty to the project. Still, the progress made so far gave them confidence. They had already overcome a major obstacle by successfully splitting the car. This showed that with enough effort and careful thinking, even the most complex tasks could be handled. The challenge now was to continue that momentum and move toward rebuilding. Looking back at the journey so far, it is clear that this project is about more than just fixing a car. It is about pushing limits and questioning what is considered possible. The claim that such a task could not be done in a garage had been challenged and proven wrong through action. This does not mean the process was easy or without risk. In fact, it required a great deal of patience, skill, and attention to detail. Every step had to be carefully planned and executed. Mistakes could have led to serious consequences, both in terms of cost and safety. However, the willingness to take on the challenge made all the difference. Instead of being discouraged by the difficulty, the team used it as motivation. This mindset is what allowed them to move forward even when things became uncertain. It also created a sense of achievement that goes beyond the technical aspects of the project. Successfully separating the car was not just a mechanical success, but also a personal one. It showed that determination and problem solving can overcome even the most difficult challenges as the project continues. The focus will shift more toward rebuilding and bringing the car back to life. This phase will come with its own set of challenges, including finding parts, repairing damaged components, and ensuring everything works as it should. The lessons learned during the disassembly will play an important role in this stage. Understanding how the car is built will make it easier to put it back together correctly. However, the difficulty should not be underestimated. Rebuilding a hypercar is just as complex, if not more, than taking it apart. It requires precision, patience, and a deep understanding of how each system works. The team will need to stay focused and continue working carefully, despite the challenges ahead.